Welcome back. So we were discussing about something being considered as working. Something is being considered as working. Now, if suppose the example Dr. Kaur brought in that I have a mild headache. Now, obviously, any discomfort we want to, it's a natural knack to get rid of that discomfort. Now, anyone who is a sensible person and is open to converse, if asked that do you want this discomfort to be removed by its root cause, or do you want that this discomfort goes for some time, just a patchwork, what will be the answer?
Definitely, I would like to understand the
Root cause or
root cause, how it developed, and then once I know how to deal with it once, I can deal with other things in a similar manner, and the repetition also, and in a long-term manner, not as a patchwork.
right. So, and most of the people who are sensible to converse and have some understanding will, unless that individual is largely suppressed and always agitated, the individual will go for the root cause only. The root cause route. The root cause road. The path of the root cause individual will go for, right? So this is the question. This is the perennial question that we have to ask, that whatever we are considering as working, whatsoever we are considering as working, is it going to the root cause, or is it bringing a momentary suppression or momentary relief from that discomfort? You know, so that's a bigger question that we need to ask. Then we'll understand
that momentary relief may be more harmful.
Yes,
in the path of
because it may be fueling the root cause itself. Whatever we actually structurally wish to achieve is not achieved. It's just a patchwork that is being achieved through these all these momentary solutions, whatever we start considering the solution. Now the solution, what is solution then, and how it is achieved, if at all there is some solution, that we need to understand by understanding the natural movement of the things. So without much delay, let's start the day with our topics. There are a few tentative topics that has been enlisted while sketching this workshop. Anytime these can be changed by you also, anyone. So what we have covered since yesterday, a little bit of understanding of energy and its distribution in terms of the domains of existence and execution. So domains of existence and execution are in terms of 3 P's, P1, P2, P3, physical, physiological, and psychological. So this is to just understand the mechanism or the flow within us as organism. Otherwise, these domains P1, P2, P3 are so connected and many times confusing, because yesterday we struggled a lot to identify, is it a physiological or psychological? Like post workshop, Binal and I conversed for an hour yesterday on understanding the term feeling good, feeling bad, whether it is a psychological aspect or a physiological aspect. Binal, do you want to reflect on those so that everybody can get some clarity?
Sir, what was the conclusion at the end?
Yeah, let's hear it from Binal. Yeah,
sir.
So in the discussion where whether it's physiology or psychology, I mean, everything happens in such split second. Like even now, for example, I right now just it was itching and I scratched my hand. I mean, to zoom in into it and then to the whole idea is not to kind of put it under some bracket that whether it's physical, physiological, or psychological as a separate entity. It's not as disintegrated. It is all interconnected, and we are just trying to zoom in. So that was first things first, and when we look at the physiology and the psychology, the difference between the psychology is that it is formless, and physiology is when there is a matter involved in it, in the form of the sensations, the feelings that we experience. So it's actually something that we experience. So even when it is coming from any physical source, there will be some physiological change that we will sense within us. And that is because of the matter, the chemical changes that's happening. And that is where that feel good or feel bad is sensed. And when even if it's coming from thoughts, then some stagnation in the perception would again rebound and come back to the matter, which is the sensation, the emotion. And again, so when that conclusion, how can I know if it's formless, if that it is a conclusion? Because if it's psychology, then we would never be able to pinpoint. Whereas when it comes back at the physiology is when we can actually sense that yes, it is there for sure because it's matter. So it eventually veered towards that feel good, feel bad is in the physiology when it comes and sense within us.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Binal. So now, see, what is mind then? That's a question, right? That what is the mind? Mind is actually the interaction between these two factors. You know, mind is normally considered as a psychological domain primarily, but to understand mind, we have to understand the relation between these two factors, the physiological domain and psychological domain. Normally, we consider that the mind is formless, right? Mind, I cannot show you the mind. But the physiological domain, the chemical, has a form, which is sensed by individual, but it has a form. It is not a formless. Now, form, any aspect which has got a form can be concretized. Are we able to comprehend this word concretize? This word concretized?
How can you say the sensations are like forms?
It's a chemical movement. It's a chemical movement within the body, and that chemical is a form.
Which chemicals are we talking about? Hormones and
Yes, whatsoever the combination, all the chemicals that is flowing within the body and sensed by the individual.
Ma'am, it may be neurotransmitters that we say, and like serotonin, dopamine, that is a chemical name. That actually makes persons feel good or feel bad. That is actually chemical, that is form. That is we are talking about, ma'am.
In the physiological domain, something is flowing within the body. We will not go for the names of those chemicals, which we are not learned of, perhaps. Are you able to comprehend now? Something is flowing within the body. Is it a form or formless?
It is a form for sure, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Kaur. Dr. Kaur's video is paused. Okay. Dropped out. Maybe some network. Anyway, what about others? Renuka, are you able to comprehend that the physiology is a form?
Yes.
So when we conclude anything, yeah, Dr. Kaur, you're back. Yes, you want to? Yes.
means this it's all lab testing, laboratory findings. these chemicals which we are discussing, but they are not like a matter form, like a physical form.
These chemicals are not a physical form, you're saying, ma'am?
Yeah.
These chemicals are not matter. It doesn't have a form, you're saying. The chemicals that are
It doesn't
flowing
have a
within the body.
physical form, it doesn't have a physical form like, the body form.
So what do you mean by physical form?
Like this form which we have, and all the organs
Yeah,
are there.
similar form it is not, but
Yeah.
it has got, so do we call it a matter or non-matter? If we remove
That
the
is
word
thing,
physical
because
form.
it's something in between. Just like mind and psychology are totally formless,
Yes.
but these sensations, they are formless, as well as just at the border, like this border is there, no, between physiological and psychological.
Which side it
It
is?
seems
To the matter
it
side?
seems to be extending both sides.
Yes. So
Isn't it?
now this confusion is because the P1, the physical domain is very much prominent as far as the form is concerned. Now, P2 is forming a bridge between P1 and P3. But it is in the form side because it is actually flowing within the body. Yes, Dr. Dubey.
Sir, for example, if we are saying this water H2O is chemical and it is formless, so what we consider it here? As Kaur ma'am is saying, it is formless.
No, she is questioning that whether it is a formless or form. She is not yet concluded. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
See this. The chemicals are flowing. They are the matter form, but the sensation itself, which is arising because of the chemicals, that doesn't have a form. The sensation is like, I'm feeling the sensation of discomfort, like in the headache. It doesn't have any particular location. The chemicals may be there.
Yes, this
but
confusion.
The chemicals are,
This confusion is because of the identification of the sensation happens in the formless domain, which is the psychological domain. When we feel good, we identify instantly this as feel good. Try and understand. We need to zoom in. Like the feel good is a chemical change within the body, but that identification is happening in the neurons, which is a formless domain. Are you able to comprehend that? The identification of the sensation is a formless domain, but the sensation is very much chemical domain, which is a matter domain, form domain.
Sir,
and yes.
Sir, effect is formless, but the cause here is due to form.
Yes, the cause is form. Yes.
Yes, that I want to say here.
Yes. So now what do we need to understand the word concretization? The conclusion is a concretization. Whenever we conclude anything, that this is it, kind of conclusion, that is a concretization. And that concretization happens in case of matter only. In the formless domain, that concretization is not possible because it is a formless. How can we concretize it? The very word concretization, if we look at, that can not be possible in the formless domain, because formless means it is a non-concretized thing. It's a tentative thing. So that's what we can go on further. So is anybody, Shanta ma'am or Renuka, do you have any reflection on this? Are you able to comprehend?
Yes, sir. Yes.
The
Yes.
concretization happens at the physiological domain. Now this concretization, when it is coming from physical side, Physical side means it is a form, it is a matter, which
Yes.
has an end. The aspect of matter, the characteristics of matter is end of it. It
Yeah.
has a start, it has an end. So the impact of P1 onto P2 will also have an end. So momentary conclusions will be there, but it will go off because the cause will go off. The cause here is
Yes.
the P1.
Yeah.
Now, when we try to conclude any P3 domain proposal, any perception, which is endless, which is formless. So that time the sensation caused by P3 will become endless. And how it becomes endless? By looping itself. When it is coming from this side to this side, then a looping starts. And it becomes a conclusion. It becomes a strong conviction, concretization, because the sensation is occurring. If the sensation doesn't occur out of a perception, then there is no conclusion possible. So we tried to understand yesterday the natural sequence of P2, P1, P2, P3, and then the disorder or the conflicting sequence also, which comes from P3 to P2, then P2, P1, and then to P3 in a reverse order. Then we also tried to understand the characteristics of conflict, characteristics of conflicts in terms of the this was, I think, a confusing illustration yesterday, where you see in this particular illustration, if you focus, then the direction of arrow, let's focus on the direction of arrow. The direction of arrow number 1 is counterclockwise. No, sorry, it's clockwise. This one, you see, number 1, number 3, and number 5. This is a reverse order. The natural order is from P1 to P2, P2 to P3, P3 to P1. This is the natural order. But here, number 1, number 3, and number 5 are actually in reverse order, which is coming from P3 to P2, which is coming from P2 to P1, and which is coming from P1 to P3. Now, along with this, we see 3 more arrows bringing a loop within. Here is a loop, here is a loop, here is a loop. But here what we need to understand is the other 3 arrows are actually morphing the previous 3 arrows only. When under this reverse order,
Kalyan, what is meant by morphing?
Morphing means replicating. Like, for example, number 2. If we focus on number 2, which is going from P2 to P3, which is otherwise a natural order. P2 to P3. Now, can we ask the newcomers? Shanta ma'am, can you say the natural order, how it will be?
P1 to P2 and then P2 to P3.
And then P3 to P1.
Yeah, P3 to P1 again.
Right? So
Yeah.
the natural order will automatically, this is an autonomous order for which we need not to invest any energy. Automatically, when there is a physical experience, there will be a sensational experience and there will be a perceptional experience. And the perceptional experience will bring a change in the action further, physical domain. So, so the natural order is P1 to P2, P2 to P3, and P3 to P1. Now, what is the reverse order?
P3 to P2,
right?
and then P2 to P1, and P1 to P3.
Right.
These are the reverse order.
Right. So the circled arrows are reverse order. The red circle.
Yes.
Now here, suppose I am doing some green circle here. This one, and this one. This one looks like the natural order. This one looks like the natural order, that from action to sensation it is coming, P1 to P2, the number 4. Number 4 is coming from P1 to P2. Number 2 is coming from P2 to P3. And number 6 is coming from P3 to P1. It looks like that it is in natural order. And that is the confusion. That is why we deny the reverse order. We start considering that this is a natural order. This is the conventional things, kind of. Now the morphing, Dr. Kaur asked, what is the meaning of morphing? Now here you see the 2 equals to 5, it says. 2 equals to 5 means the 5 here is from action to the perception. From P1 to P2 is 5. So from P1 to P2 are the justification and excuses of action. Try and remember that. Try and correlate that. From P1 to P3, the number 5 is justification. So again, let's revise the understanding of 1, 3, and 5. 1 is ideated sensation. Ideated sensation. So a sensation coming from ideas. Number 3, obsessive action. Obsessive action, an action P1 coming from sensation, which is sensational action or obsessive action. And then from P1 to P3, it's a justification or excuses of action. Justification or excuses of action, which is the number 5. P1 to P3. Now see the similarity between this second arrow, the number 2, and the 5th arrow is, it is quite similar. It is bringing a justification or excuses of a matter. Action is also a matter, and here sensation, what is happening, I'm trying to justify that. I'm trying to justify that sensation and strengthening the idea which is sourcing that sensation. So this second arrow is morphing the 5th arrow. This is not in a natural order. It's a morphed natural order one experiences. Similar goes for the arrow number 4. Arrow number 4 is bringing a sensation from action. But here the action is not the reason, which is quite similar to the ideation. We are actually bringing the idea of the action and bringing a sensation in terms of pride or remorse out of an action. So it may look like it is coming from action as far as the experience is concerned, but it is actually supporting the idea which is coming back again. So number 4 and number 1 are the same. So number 4, which may look like that it is coming from an action. Like yesterday we were discussing that once he is shouting at me, it is an insult only, because it is a physical sound and it is an insult. So the interpretation of the sound as insult is the ideation, which may be targeting the action, but it is not actually the action we are talking about. We are talking about the ideas. It's quite similar to the attraction towards the pizza or any cooked food for that matter. It is not the matter which is attracting us. It's a confusion. It's a confusion. It's actually the idea behind that creation of taste which is attracting us. So number 4th arrow is equivalent to number 1st arrow. And coming to the 6th arrow. Coming to the 6th arrow, which is coming from perception to action. It might look like that, but it is not the perception, it is the sensation which is driving. So number 3 and number 6 are the same. We keep on claiming that it is my perception which is leading me to take this action. But when we look at ourselves closely, then we'll find the sensation there. It is the sensation which is bringing this obsession towards the act. It is not my idea which is pushing me. It is my sensation which is caused by the idea which is pushing me. Vinal, are you getting some clarity in today's discussion about these 3 juxtaposed reverse order?
Much clarity, because yesterday I was still figuring out with these
Yes.
equations.
Yes, yes. So I think around 8 minutes are left. So yes, we can go for any reflection or discussion on this. If it's still confusing, Dr. Kaur, are you getting some clarity?
Somewhat it is getting confused.
Okay,
Can we take
okay.
some example about these things?
Yes, yes, yes.
Suppose
So,
like we were discussing about the children and we want to guide them, but unless they have the perception themselves,
yes,
from this circle, as you have explained, they have done the action, they get the sensation, and then they perceive about it, and then the subsequent action gets modified or
yes,
whatever.
yes. So let's pick up that. Let's pick
yeah.
up that, then we'll go to the next. So suppose a child got a grade in his class, like yesterday Joy's son was getting a grade and they were discussing. Now the action, it may be considered that the grade, the progress report is an action, it's a physical matter. The child is holding it in the hand and it is out of his appearance in exam. He has achieved, quote unquote. So it might be considered as action. It might be considered as an action. And suppose the child is very happy with that achievement, or very unhappy, very sad in that achievement. Now, it may look like that it is coming from the action because he has taken some action, and as output of the action, he is feeling bad or feeling good. Try and understand this thing closely. It may look like it is coming from the action, the number 4 here, this one, a sensation coming from action. But if we look closely, then a lot of ideas of success and failure in terms of the marks achieved or secured in exam is fed into the child beforehand. And child has accepted it because most of the cases child doesn't have a say there. It still replicating the environment, not having a lot of neural capability to interpret by himself. So it is the idea which is bringing the sensation. Number 4. Number 4 is nothing but equal to number 1. It may look like that it is coming from sensation, action, but here it is not the action which is causing the sensation. It is the idea behind that action. That this is called success in life. This is a failure in your life. So all these things is bringing that pride or remorse. Are you able to comprehend, ma'am? With example, the number 4 equals to number 1.
Yes, it was very clear.
Yes.
The example which you gave.
Yes.
No, I was talking about, that is true what you have mentioned.
Yes,
but like we want to teach our children, we want to guide them. But unless he himself goes through that physical action and then sensation and perception, his subsequent action, he has to go through this cycle himself.
Yes.
We cannot influence him or motivate him or
Yes.
anything, no?
Yes. Yes. So that that aspect,
Only we can maybe help him to remove that
when
idea.
he is ready, when he is asking
Yeah.
so
Hmm.
what actually as a responsible parent we can do is being ready and being available agendalessly from our side. When that child is interested to get help, then definitely we can start exploring. We need not to plan to help, for that matter. We'll understand the inquiring route in detail, and the agendalessness, the beauty of the agendalessness and being available all the time for anyone, for that matter, not only for the child. If we are, we can understand the beauty of agendalessness and stay agendaless, then we are actually available for anyone and everyone. Whenever they seek us, they sought after. When we are sought after, we are always available because we are basically agendaless, if we can. So that we can dive deeper today. Definitely. So any other doubt or question in terms of these confusing loops? Conflicting, confusing loops. We'll share this particular illustration also for your reference, so that you can go yourself also within. Yeah, right now I'm sharing it. Yes. So, yeah, Shanta ma'am, is it clear? Somewhat bringing clarity?
Yes, sir.
Confusing.
Yeah. The last example that you gave, no, that made me very much clear.
So anyone can give example of 6 or second loop? Number 2, Deepa or Binal, Renuka, if you can bring some example. Second loop means from sensation to perception, which is seemingly a natural order, but it is a morphed fifth loop, which is from action to the perception in terms of justification or excuse.
So maybe yesterday's example that the Mercedes was visualized, and I happened to succeed in putting that visualization into reality, that I actually got Mercedes. Then I think that so now I would think that it's
Yeah,
a natural thing that
let me comprehend this. Let me comprehend. Can I?
Yes.
So so what example you are bringing is, we have just less than 2 minutes. So one person visualized about Mercedes and achieved it. Finally achieved it and have a Mercedes in his garage. Now he is saying, see, I get a satisfaction. I get a satisfaction by owning this Mercedes. So he is focusing on the sensation here in terms of satisfaction. But what he is trying to do is justifying his action of achieving Mercedes as a success. He's trying to focus on the satisfaction, on the feel-good factor here. But while doing this, he is actually justifying his action where he has concluded that owning a Mercedes is a success. Can we think in this, on this, and bring some more reflection? So let's have a 5 minutes silence, 5 minutes of silence, and come back with reflections on this, where the action is confused as sensation.